Hello and welcome to a new edition of Nashville Masterclass. I'm your host, James Jeremiah Jebediah Ezekiel May, and today's subject is the history of opiates. It's part one of a two-part series, and we're going to be delving into the history of the poppy plant itself and its alkaloids. We hear a lot today about the great opiate crisis, and in any city, in any country, anywhere around the world, you could be taking your evening walk, and now the shadows come the addicts, creeping and crawling like the sneaky, slimy, slithering snakes they are, ready to cut your head off with a machete. But how did we get here? How did this great crisis come about? What exactly are opiates? Well, I think the best place to start is the beginning. And in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth and the opium poppy. And he saw it. And it was pretty good. Give him that one. Now, there is some debate as to where the opium poppy first grew wild, but it is the general consensus that it was a wild plant grown around the Mediterranean, Europe, the Middle East, and Northern Africa. There are plant remains found in several Neolithic sites around the Mediterranean that show opium in use, opium seeds caught in the teeth of a Neolithic man. In fact, I would hazard a guess that even before Homo sapien made it out of Africa, other hominins like Neanderthal and the Denisovans were already out there getting high. And what a time it must be. Imagine going through withdrawals while you're trying to hunt a mastodon. It's going to crush your head and you're going to die. And you would probably love it. You probably feel like you're going to die anyway and just want out of that hell. I can't imagine. But I am sure for hundreds of thousands of years, the people around the Mediterranean knew of its medicinal and narcotic properties and used it as such. So the history is murky in that there is no definitive proof. But it's the same as... What the hell is that? What is that? Anyway, okay. Anyway, so it's the same as knowing there were carrots, lettuce, fruit, but not having the proof that these hominins were eating them. But we know they did. It's the same with opium. But we have definitive proof starting back as far as 5,000 BC, maybe 6,000 BC. The Greeks and the Romans knew about it. I think every ancient civilization except for northern Europeans knew about it. Now, the Chinese, a lot of people probably think that it originates around Asia. It does not. It was introduced into India by the Arabs, and they in turn turned it on to the Chinese as a special gift. I can imagine during this time that in each society there were opium addicts, and people knew addicts existed, and they understood addiction, not understood it in a technical and scientific sense, but understood what happened when you were going through addiction and withdrawal, and could recognize an addict. There's artwork. There are juglets that were found in the remains of ships that were in the shape of opium poppies. It was mentioned in the Odyssey, mentioned by Hippocrates, you know who, the father of modern medicine. It was used by the Chinese surgeon Huatu. There's no way for me to know the correct pronunciation. Who had used the preparation of opium and cannabis for his patients to swallow before major surgery. The widespread use of opium in China was introduced when the Dutch brought tobacco. The Sumerians used it, and their word was whole gil, whole meaning joy, gil meaning plant. Opium is mentioned in some of the most important ancient texts of the medicine world. Galen, Avicenna, Eber's Papyrus. But preparations using opium and other substances, there's nothing recorded until, I think, 1680. Let me look at my notes. Yeah, 1680, with the advent of laudanum, which is opium, alcohol. I've heard cannabis being added to it. But in 1803, the German pharmacist Friedrich Schturner was the first person to isolate the principal alkaloid in opium, which is morphine. Around 1832, codeine was discovered. 1839, in St. Mary's Hospital in London, they took morphine. They moved it to the diacetyl group, making diamorphine, which is heroin. I read that they tried it out by giving a little to a dog outside the hospital, and wrote that it threw up a little. And they put it back on the shelf for about 20 years before it was used again. Hydrocodone was synthesized in Germany in 1920 by Karl Menick and Helena Leuwenheim. Oxycodone synthesized in Germany, again, 1916, by Martin Freund and Edmund Jacob Speyer. And I think it's worth noting that he was a victim of the Holocaust in World War II. Another not so well known alkaloid in opium is thebaine. Thebaine is very important. It often serves as a raw material in the synthesis of semi-synthetics like oxycodone, hydrocodone, oxymorphone. Now, these alkaloids, the medicine, can be administered many ways: mouth, sublingually, intramuscularly, intravenous, intranasal, subcutaneous, transdermal, rectal, and epidural. Sublingual is under the tongue, intramuscular is in your muscle, intravenous in your vein, intranasal is through your nose, subcutaneous is right under the skin, transdermal through your skin, rectal you know where, and epidural in your spine. Methadone is another, it's a full synthesis. It was made during World War II. The Allies had cut off Germany's opium supply, and they couldn't make medicines. So methadone was a full synthesis made by Gustav Erhard and Max, some name I can't pronounce. I'm not even going to try. It was introduced in the U.S. by Eli Lilly in 1947 under the name Dolafine, and some people erroneously think Dolafine is named after Adolf Hitler. It is not. You're just stupid. Most people are, so don't worry. It's also used under the name Polemedon. I can't. Another synthesis, a semi-synthetic buprenorphine made from thebaine, was developed by the Rickett and Coleman Company. It took 10 years trying to synthesize an opiate compound that would retain desirable actions while shedding undesirable, and that never really happened. It was used in 1978 in the UK as an injection for severe pain. The reason buprenorphine and methadone are used for drug addiction is because it blocks out other opioids. Methadone can be good for pain. Buprenorphine, no. It doesn't really do much. People think that fentanyl is the strongest of opioids. Not even close. You got things like etorphine that are 1,000 to 3,000 times stronger than morphine, and they're used to sedate very large mammals like elephants. I think we really got to where we are after the Harrison Narcotics Tax Act in 1914, and it did more harm than it did good. Now, you couldn't go to the doctor just and tell them I'm addicted and I need my medicine. They couldn't take care of you like that. Getting opiates prescribed for pain is very different than getting them prescribed for addiction. There are different ways you need to take care of yourself, things you need to watch out for that your doctor can help you through. After Nixon declared war on drugs, each year it's getting worse and worse. All that's happened is more people are locked up in prison, their lives ruined, killed during the violence of a drug deal. You have cartels that are in power and have huge amounts of money and influence that are caused by the war on drugs. If drugs were legal, they wouldn't be in power at all. You'd have a lot less ODs, and people would say, you can't make drugs legal. It would be a nightmare. We would be living in hell. I've said this before, look around you. We're already there. We've been there for quite some time. Go to San Francisco. Try to walk down the sidewalk without stepping in human excrement. Violence, gun violence, drugs, immigration, overdose deaths, all these things are intertwined. Opiates are a kind of narcotic that causes physical addiction. Withdrawal does not cause death. Alcohol, benzodiazepines, and barbiturates can. Opium, its derivatives, have been used for thousands of years. There have been addicts for thousands of years. We have natural opioid receptors in our brain. How? Just magical? No, it came through evolution. humans using opium for so many thousands of years. The three primary, the mu, kappa, and gamma receptors in the brain. Just like the endocannabinol system that is in every human body from humans using cannabis over thousands of years. Now, the next episode I put in, we'll get more into how opiates act in the brain and its medicinal use for pain. So I hope to see you guys then, and remember, if you're stuck in a hard point in time in your life, don't stand in the valley, walk through it.